King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at kingcomics.ca, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby. Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today's Tuesday and it's Sam Keith Day. So we are looking at the next issue in his The Max run for Image Comics. This is The Max issue 8, cover dated May 1994, and Pitt still guest starring in this issue, so it's a two-parter with Pitt. I still appreciate the fact that Sam Keith was nice enough to include Pitt on the cover. I don't know if that's for sales or just because, he wants to give equal credit to the character because he appears here. It is a little odd that Pitt is obscuring the Max, though. So, I don't think it's ever a good idea to completely obscure your logo where you can't read it completely. So anyone, who doesn't know this is the Max might read it as the May or the Ma. But, what are you going to do? The actual cover itself, other than the logo, does look really cool, I think. Some, typical awesome cross-hatched surrealist Sam Keith art. Let's open her up and have a look inside, see what's going on. So, story and art, Sam Keith. Dialogue, Bill Messner-Loebs. Finishes, Jim Sinclair, assistant, right, kind of. Lettering, Mike Heisler, and colors, Steve Oliphant, all the optics. More of this kind of painted artwork a little bit that he throws in there, which I always think is awesome. A bit of ink and color mixed in with that, and his representation of horses, which he started last issue, which continues in this one. I just love this as a piece of art, just this thing here. I think that looks great. And that's our B story with Sarah. Now we're back to our A story with Julie. We've got some more kind of slightly painted artwork in these two panels here. This here and this here as well. And I would say most of this is actually painted and probably more Sam Keith colors than whoever does the regular colors, right? Almost all of this is painted. Looks very good. So continuing on from last issue, this animal was menacing Julie, but she was quick enough to realize and turned around, threw a spear, and took care of that weird creature. And now she's grabbed the small version of Mr. Gone, and they're going to have a conversation. Meanwhile, we've got Pitt and Max, who've been shrunk for some reason in the real world and are still trying to, in this case, they've captured an Iz and tied him up. And they're trying to get rid of him, I think, is what they're trying to do here, trying to kill him. Great Sam Keith artwork here. Some of the stuff, I think this is the assistant Jim Sinclair here because the line works a little bit different and not Sam Keithish. Another great shot of the Max here, but not much going on here with the Max and Pitt themselves. Just the mystery of who the Max is. I remember back in this, at some point it was hinted at in Wizard interviews and things I would read about it, that the Max was actually a rabbit. And I always thought that was very odd. And again, with Sam Keith, that makes sense. Very surrealist and odd choices. Because originally I found out later that one of his kind of first comics they did more independently back in the day was a Max the Hare character. So he was a rabbit, and I guess he takes some inspiration for this version of the Max from that, and everything's kind of tied in to a certain extent. I don't think his Super Dick series is tied into the Max. If you don't know about it, oh my god, one of my friends, Ron Twine, a great artist and comic book artist from Quebec, sent me kind of that stuff. I'd never actually seen that. I thought I knew about most of Sam Keith's work, but he actually did a kind of it looks like an underground comic, very Crumb influenced, but the main character is a superhero who's called Super Dick, and his head's like basically a dick, right? Just interesting to find out. Great shot here of an animal carcass. Love the textures. Whoever did the coloring added a lot too, I think, and did it in a way that fits with the Sam Keith art. Slightly cartoony, I think this looks really good. I've always liked his concept here. He's used often of the what he calls an air whale, just a flying whale. And he always draws it from the back because the complicated bits of the whale to draw are in the front, which is smart. At this point here, Max grabs hold of one of those and kind of flies away from Pitt. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the end of Pitt for this story. Some more great Sam Keith kind of, surrealist stuff. We got the horse and we've got a rhinoceros sticking out. Like you see it here, just like a great design for surrealist kind of almost more European in a way than American in its thought process and its design, right? A little more reminiscent of something maybe you'd see in Moebius artwork or something like that, right? But I love that aspect of Sam Keith. You know, he's not afraid to just kind of do stuff that's not from reality, to evoke things, I guess, to make things interesting. What a great shot here with the, you know, the minimal lighting and just the how fine the lines are and how well this is depicted. Just, I think that's great with the design of the whole page. A lot of black, but just such a beautiful page. So Julie still kind of, you know, not happy with Mr. Gone. He's telling her things she doesn't want to hear, is what I gather. So eventually what happens is she basically cuts his head off here, even at this size. We've got Max jumping off the airwheel, and I like here what's in the dialogue. I'll read this. I wonder if this means I've really been hanging off the strut of a Goodyear blimp for the last 15 miles. So, of course, Max, you know, we've talked about this, how they flip in between the real world and his kind of imaginary outback world, Australian outback that he kind of has fantasies in. But what's happened here is now all of a sudden what's different than usual is that Julie has partaken in the hallucination, right? So she's actually in there with the Max. So she's definitely not feeling good about that, you know, that she's actually starting to see the same hallucinations as the Max. And as I get to the apartment, there's kind of a slow zoom onto this bag here, and it's mentioned, you know, man, something stinks in here, right? Yeah, where's that smell coming from? We're going to assume the smell is coming from here, but we don't know what that is yet. And of course, the mystery will be revealed in the next few issues. I remember, you know, kind of dreading what this was here, almost like, I think the way it's revealed and stuff, if I remember correctly, there's somewhat of a, almost like Seven, right? I think Seven came out after this comic, but the movie Seven, the fact that there's something in the bag and it's not actually revealed right away, but you kind of, it's hinted at and you kind of start dreading what it might actually be. There's a bit of that in this storyline here for the Max. Some more fan art. We got Maxina here, so a female version of the Max. Kind of interesting. It's very small. Hope you can kind of pick that up on the camera there. Just odd. Even though the Max already is pretty odd, right? I thought this section was interesting here. I'll start with the bottom, but basically what it is Sam Keith pointing out his artistic influences, at least within comic books. So without these guys, I'd be gum on your shoe. So who are those guys? Well, Frank Frazetta, okay? If you know about it, then you probably see a little bit of his influence in Sam Keith's art. A lot of people remember Frank Frazetta from his paperback covers in the 70s. A smaller fortunate group have dug up a handful of black and white comic stories he did in the 50s. Impressed by the fluid brushwork of Alex Raymond and the fine draftsmanship of Hal Foster, many people felt that Frazetta achieved a Mozart-like balance between heart and mind. I know that sounds corny, but for a lot of people, nobody comes close since to matching Frazetta's ability to go between the sensual and the aggressive. And kind of, I think what they're talking about is, as well, if I can put it into different words, Frazetta's balance of like the beautiful and the visceral is maybe how I describe it. And we're kind of saying the same thing, right? But he's able to do that violence and that muscle and all, you know, that manly stuff and the fighting and the you know, the barbarians and all that stuff. But he also does the beautiful women, and sometimes the art's a bit rougher and sometimes the art's very refined and clean, right? So he strikes a good balance between all of that in his work. I would agree with that for sure. Bernie Wrightson. Wrightson has one of the coolest brush lines in comics. If you like those long, smooth, pointy brush strokes that Kelly Jones does, along with amazing blacks and shadows, check out Wrightson. And again, these influences all make sense when it comes to Sam Keith. Arthur Suydam. If you like pot-bellied characters with skinny necks and long noses, Suydam's underground work in heavy metal is full of them. He is very much a student of the Frazetta Wrightson school of cool brushwork. And one last one, Vaughn Baudet. This is the guy I know least about, but his style keeps popping up in my work. Leaning closer to a cartoony edge than the other guys, his affection for his characters overshadows the sometimes adult material they're portrayed in. So there you go. Sam Keith, I like this idea that he's kind of listed some of his most important influences, artistic influences. It's interesting, you know. It's probably the kind of stuff back in the day. If I may have seen this when I was a kid, but I guess I didn't pay much attention to it. I wish I had and gone and looked up these artists a bit more back then. But I caught up at some point and do know and have a bit of their works here. at home. Pretty good period. I remember the Shadowhawk Gallery. I really enjoyed. It was all the pinups and stuff kind of that were reprinted that were originally printed in the Shadowhawk comic in the back of the comic, kind of reprinted all into one issue. Just some really cool artwork all in one, even though Subject Shadowhawk himself is not the most interesting character. The artists on that book definitely are mostly all very interesting. Love the ads at the ends. I've talked about this, not cutting into the story. A shitty scan of pit number 5, I guess, right, that we got here. Just you can see the artwork's kind of blurry. And a great colored scan of a great Todd McFarlane Spawn image from Spawn number 12 or 13, somewhere around there. We'll be getting to that in the review of the Todd McFarlane stuff pretty quickly, I would think, in a few months. So there you have it, guys. Max, guest starring Pit, Max number 8. You have any questions or comments about it, please let me know below. If you're not subscribed and you're watching the videos, please do so. It helps us out a lot at the channel, helps get us out there to other people with the same kind of interests. If you are subscribed and you're still enjoying the videos, thank you for sticking around and still being there and offering up your support to myself and the channel and to King Comics. Hope everyone out there has an awesome day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at kingcomics.ca, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.